We are still in hump day. The question I asked earlier was, are you a humpy or a humpor? And I know there's one guy in this room who's new to everybody who knows the definition of humpy and humpor, and that is stripper for freedom.
Thank you for that nice introduction. I literally live and breathe freedom. And thank you for having me on your show, Gandalf.
So one of the reasons I called you my friend is because you are one of the only people that I trust enough to actually talk to about tarot. And when you talk about tarot and 12 and 13 and the fact that they've hidden a part of the zodiac calendar from us, and what do you think about this Aquarian shift in addition to the zodiac tarot interaction with all of that? I mean, I need some help here. This is not a strong point for me, and I don't say that very often.
Yeah, it's coming back to reality, right? Spirituality. That's where we find ourselves in without any of this stuff around us, any of this junk, any of these lies, any of this news. And if you get into spirituality at a high level, the truths just start coming. Whether it's reading your Bible, reading another version of the Bible, an older a dated version, getting into tarot, it's all literally spirituality 101. And you will get the answers that you seek when you start diving deep in this reality.
So what if I
13,
tell you? What if I tell you it's evil? Why is it not evil, or is it evil? You got to
evil
go
is
there.
just a perception. Evil is just a perception. Now, I take a lot of grief. I've been on a couple shows, right? People don't like that I'm called stripper for freedom. But that's their own headspace, right? That's where they came from. Their opinion of me means nothing to me. I can care less. But being a stripper is taboo, just like everything else. And if you don't do your research, of course, you're not going to find this soul connection that you're seeking. Uh,
Nancy and I have been talking about a show that's about fasting, and just something sort of hit me. Stripping is like fasting.
Kind of, you got to stick it though, right? I mean, you
You got to
just
go
don't
full
go.
Monty. You got to
Yeah,
full Monty.
you go full Monty. You go all out in your diet because that's where your health is. Without your health, and there's really nothing less. It doesn't matter if you spend 100 years doing the wrong things. As long as you get on the path, you got to get on the way. You got to get in the flow, right? And the age of Aquarius is just reality. You're getting into the flow whether you like it or not. It may not be comfortable, but realize that on the other side of all this, you realize different things like the number 13. I can get into that. I can pull some tarot cards out and give us,
Well, hold
what
on,
I
hold
like,
on, hold on. Don't
you know,
shoot your wad too early there, Stripper for Freedom.
oh,
So look, I'm what I'm trying to get to here is that if you're going to research and have an open mind, you have to start by opening your mind. So I brought one of my most offensive friends on to talk about this in such a way that he talks about it. I mean, I would not be a flat earther without Stripper for Freedom. I made fun of him for a long time before I came over the fence, or I came through the firmament, so to speak. So save us here, Nancy. Talk to me about how having an open mind doesn't hurt your faith or make you evil.
Well, I really resonated with what Stripper for Freedom just said because when I hear the word evil, or I hear somebody being called a witch for using tarot cards or spiritual cards, and the door closes on them and their minds aren't open to receive anything after that. And yet, for me, my body does not resonate with evil, it resonates with the heart and soul of humanity. There's a higher consciousness, a higher vibration, and that word just kind of puts a little kink in my flow. So when somebody calls me that, I just continue on.
Well said. Well said.
People call me a lot of things. You should just ignore them.
Well, and I like that Stripper doesn't take it personally. That's huge.
Yeah, I'm known to get the kinks out. So, in regards to people, their position, their alignment, their disalignment, right? It's very much goes back to these ages. And I know we talked about the age of Aquarius, which they in the 60s, that's all they talked about. They saw the coming of the age. It was squashed. So we have no choice but to start feeling different. The frequencies changing, the moon cycles and the sun cycles, they're all revolving around the flat earth. And of course, these planets they pull the water, they pull the tides. They have a pull on our bodies, or our bodies are water. So in connection with your spirit and everything else, you'll find yourself in an alignment that you can't disregard. And nice picture, Gandalf. Just love that photo. Did you guys want to talk about anything specific?
So let me. I'm pulling up something here. What we're talking about here is the oneness. Okay, the oneness of the oneness of the Aquarian age. So that my hope was sort of research the background here, but I think we should just have a conversation about this better than anything else. The point I'm trying to make here with this panel is that we are in the Aquarian age. I really think we made the cut on November 8th. You can't deny the blood moon. Everybody saw it. And explain to me how everybody sees that in around Earth. I'm not going to go there. So that we have the end of the jubilee of jubilees. This is the Hebrew calendar. All the Abrahamistic and Noahistic followers, the true Hebrews, not the Zionists, the true Catholics, the followers of Peter, not the Jesuits, the true Christians that are followers of the Holy Spirit filled man, the true Church of the Way. That all these people are living in this resonance. That this is the time, and everyone's out there trying to wake people up, getting them off of CNN. I'm trying to wake them up, getting them off of the pablum of church on Sundays. It's a building and a man. Oh, that's going to get me in trouble. Save me, Nancy.
Oh, well, nature is where the resonance is. So having a spiritual awakening is often when we're connected to nature and our God self, our highest self. For me, at least, that's why I love Hawaii. It's the quickest way to bliss, other than just right here, right now, in my own highest mind, connected with you, the we.
Oh, that was you calling me from that Hawaii number. I thought that was Shep.
No.
Do you know about Shep? You ever heard of Shep Gordon?
No. Is that Gordon Ramsay?
He lives over on Maui, and he is the father of all culinary television. And I was sitting down with a buddy of mine a number of years ago, and we were sort of stuck in a business quandary, and we pulled up this movie. It was called Supermensch, The Legend of Shep Gordon. I watched it again the other night, and this guy is just an enabler. He is an enabler of success. Knowing what I know about Hollywood now, it's very hard for me to reconcile how he was near all of that, but he's the one that broke up the black people not getting paid for playing music in the 70s and 60s. They called it the Chitlin Tour. They wouldn't pay anybody. Shep fixed that. He got all the chefs together, and so they could make money and not get treated like crap. They used to bring the executive chefs in, these guys that were famous, get treated like kings, and then they couldn't eat with the people. So this is very much in the Piscean age, this dissonance, this separation. There has to be a yes and a no. And the power of getting caught in thought in transition is what defeats our ability to go from intention to manifestation. The Piscean age is about intention and manifestation. It's about correct use of frequency and vibration of your pineal, of your chakra chain, which is your spinal fluid column, of your ability to balance and move in sequence with the earth. I have I have a Tai Chi sensei that is a good friend of mine, and I would not be the man I am today. I have a balance in my life I've never had before, and yet I'm in the middle of chaos. Where do you find that? The peace that passes understanding. I mean, reconciling these two worlds with the dissonance layer. That's what we're trying to do here. How do I open my mind up to something that I've been told is evil my entire life, like tarot or apocryphal scripture or true engagement with the Holy Spirit as creator?
I just heard another term for witch is wisdom.
Just like a cult is hidden.
Sounds like a good one.
I can't speak for everyone, guys, but I
No, but you can
feel like
speak for
very
yourself.
few. I feel like very few men know women like I do.
Well,
Right?
you're a stripper. You're a stripper.
Yeah, I mean, I get up close and personal, right? I can feel the energy, So I
talk about that
women.
energy for a second. And keep your jockstrap on, bro.
I'll try.
What's that engagement feel like when you're engaging with the energy of a crowd and revealing yourself in that process? How do you do that?
Well, it's a lot like letting go, and freedom and stripping is very much the same thing. You got to let go. I mean, whether you got clothes on or you don't, does it really matter?
So my hypothesis is that why don't you strip yourself of the Piscean age?
I'm getting into that. I'm getting into this intimate moment I have with women.
Look,
right?
I'm saying that all of us are missing that intimate moment across all of our society. How do you have an intimate moment when you're in a 6-foot line? Hold on. How do you have an intimate moment with someone when you're separated by 6 feet with a mask on, staring at your phone? Nancy, you want to run that ball?
Well, I prefer not to be with masked up people or hanging out on a phone when I'm with somebody because it takes away from the intimacy. And what Stripper was just talking about is true vulnerability. If you're going to if you're going to take off your clothes, you're activating a superpower of true raw vulnerability, the V word, which so many people are afraid of and don't even know how to identify that. And so you're a powerful man if you can strip, because a lot of us women can't strip. We have to be taught. We go to stripping classes to learn how, and it's not found there.
This is a spiritual stripping class.
There you go.
I'm your own private dancer.
Well, I only carry 20s, so I hope there's no cameras.
we take Cash App now and Venmo.
Hey, look, this is about valuable consideration in exchange. I say that tongue in cheek, but I only carry 20s. If I'm gonna give somebody something, I'm gonna give it to them. If you're gonna strip in front of someone and make yourself vulnerable, you can't make yourself vulnerable on Instagram. You can't make yourself vulnerable on Twitter unless you're Elon Musk showing everybody else's vulnerability. You cannot make yourself vulnerable without human interaction. I mean, we have been stuck at home.
For me, it really does make it easier for me.
But hold on. Let's look what happened the last 36 months. We have been isolated. We have been separated. We have been identified. We have been tracked. We have been categorized, and we have been milked. What does the enemy do? The enemy makes us solemn, alone. The enemy depresses us, the depression of our pineal instincts, so that we can engage with others. The enemy separates us. We just did this in the last show. How many definitions of Satan did we have, Brandy? Was it like 19 with maybe 30 scriptural references?
That's right.
34, I think. 34 mentions. Was that it?
That's right.
So I got 34 mentions of the bad guy. How many mentions in your day do you have the bad you? Are you going to strip for yourself first? Do you look at yourself in self-observation in the mirror of your nakedness of you? Because that's Aquarian. Pick me up, Nancy. Give me a woman's voice.
That's the practice. We bring the women into the retreats. We strip ourselves of our veneer, and we get to the core essence of who we are in all of our vulnerability, no matter
spiritual
what.
CPR.
Thank you. Yeah. Context, purpose, results.
So talk about what that process looks like as we migrate into the Aquarian age. The strippers talked about the fact that he is him and proud of it. I I doubt that he stands in front of the mirror and doesn't say, "Oh my God, that looks fantastic." How many of us do that? That's CPR, right? That's your process.
Yes, and so the women learn that we are not to compare ourselves with Cosmopolitan magazine, that there is an intimacy that we can create once we release the veneer and the ego to sit in a circle, to take times expressing ourselves. And what's happened over the past 2 years in my community, which is all over North America, is that it became an us against them. And I was shocked. And so I withdrew. I stopped being vulnerable. And now I'm ready to step back into my power and be vulnerable and strip the ego so that I can be in service to God to bring people back together. This is what you're talking about. This is what I've meditated and prayed on for decades, a world of peace, harmony, and vulnerability and service to one another.
So
Not
as you live in this manifestation, right, that's happening right now
yes,
in real time, right?
yes.
Talk about the confirmation in your life that you know this is true. Because how do you deal with dissonance? You deal with dissonance by truth and faith, right?
Well, it depends on, yeah, that would be simple, yes. And people still aren't ready to hear it. With all my Facebook followers, my community, they still only want to hear the positive fluff. They don't want to hear the truth yet. They're not ready. So what I'm waiting for is that moment of truth where it hits them so that they become vulnerable and melt. It's called a meltdown. We call it meltdowns. They have the meltdown and they go, what has happened? How did I get sucked into all of this? Why did I believe what I believed? Why did I hate my friends? Why did I cut them off? And that's going to be a defining moment for so many people. So we're preparing to welcome them into what you've researched, what we've all learned, but it's got to come slowly. If it's too fast, they'll just blow out.
Yeah, you're right on it. That's in the middle of the target. So low and slow. And I got this. I got a bunch of doctor buddies because because it's hard to find people that might be smarter than me. Most doctors fail, but so and they all talk about the best therapies are low and slow, but you got to stay at it, right? So what?
Yes.
Give
Drip,
give
drip,
me
drip.
an example of something that you're doing in your life every day that is helping you embrace this new Aquarian energy, so that you know it's real. What are you doing? What's your action?
Well, I soft touch people so that they stay engaged with me, so that when the moment comes, then they'll be open and ready to hear more. They already trusted me. So for me, I've got to stay grounded in myself. I have my prayer candles. I just took a walk in nature before we got on the call. So I connect with spirit. And then I can be in my heart to receive them, to be compassionate, to be empathetic, to be vulnerable. I like what John was saying about he can really connect with women. That's a gift for a man to be able to know women and for women to know themselves. A lot of us don't aren't connected with our true authentic selves, with our spiritual selves. And so it's a slow drip right now because the flood's coming.
So yeah, the flood is coming. This is the thing that can't be stopped. The thing that no one can stop is the age of Aquarius. Everyone's expecting it to be the RV or the Sara or some checking account bullshit. It's not. It is the Aquarian age and the energy of the Aquarian age. And engaging with it, I'm convinced of that. So look, Stripper, I know something about you most people don't know. I know uh, that you called Donald Trump being president a few years before it happened and got called out on Twitter for it, and that you put out more H stands for Trump when he ran than anybody else in your county. So you are a man of passion and engagement. This is true. So how do you get over the fact that the heat of you comes at people and they just say, "Oh fuck that guy, he's crazy"? How do you get over that? Nancy talked about getting in touch with the true you, right? There's a lot of Tai Chi in the middle of that. How do you overcome that thing where people just look at you and say, "Oh, I'm not listening to any of that"? How do you get through that wall?
Honestly, just focus on the women. Okay. Literally, I am put on this earth to serve women. I don't really care about anything else. And if you're the eye of my world,
your wife's gonna call me. I'm gonna be in trouble. Brandy.
yeah,
Brandy,
essentially,
how do you get over that distance layer with people that you talk to in your environment? How do you do this?
Wow. Geez, put me on the spot.
Yeah, you had to see that rotation coming. Come on.
How do I engage? Basically, when someone is connected, I kind of feel the connection. And when I don't, I stay away.
So let me give you guys a hint. Let me give you a hack. I'm a tool
Love.
guy.
Love.
So if someone comes up to me and I'm hard to stop. This is true. I'm sort of an encyclopedic savant, according to some of my friends.
So
I just reinforce what they say. They start talking about, and look, you can pretty much broach any topic with me. I'll fuck with you. Excuse my French. I will mess with your distance levels. So people talk about history, and I say, "Wow, well then you must know about you must know about Tartaria." if they talk about health, I say, "Well then obviously you understand vibration and frequency," and like Nikola Tesla did. And no one ever wants to admit they're wrong, and you just let them stumble all over themselves, and they ask questions. If somebody says, if you're trying to sell a housekeeper business, and you walk up to someone's door and you ring their bell and say, "I'm a good housekeeper," and they say, "Oh, I have a housekeeper," you know what you say? You say, "Well, I am sure that person shows up on time 100% of the time, never takes a day off, and never makes a mistake," because that's what I would do if I were your housekeeper. And they can't come back and say it's that perfect. Because if it's that perfect, they're not married.
Well, I like what you said about you engage with them because there's a few powerful words, whether I agree with somebody or not. And they are, I hear you, I feel you. And they soften.
I see you.
I see you.
Spot on. Spot on.
People aren't used to being witnessed and being heard.
Say that again.
People aren't used to being witnessed and being heard.
Yep. So what I just heard you say with your very powerful mouth is that to hear someone is to engage with them, not to speak to them.
Yes.
We are bursting with knowledge. We're pissed off. Everyone said we're wrong. We talk about people that were killed at Gitmo because we read real raw news and people say, "I saw him on television." You say it's a clone. Yeah, that works. Engage. That is the Aquarian energy, the energy of engagement.
But so many people want to prove that they're right that they sit there and argue instead.
And argue is divisive, and divisive is Piscean, and we're out of Piscean.
And that's the that's the ego mind edging God out to be right, to have the last word. And when two egos engage in an argument, it kills the relationship.
So say that a different way. Talk about egos, battle, and acquiescence. We're missing acquiescence.
To set our egos aside and not need to be right.
Okay,
we don't need to prove anything.
Go ahead, Nancy. Run with that.
We don't need to prove anything. We just present what we know and allow it to land in their heart. And if it doesn't, it may not be time yet. But they heard it, and they can't get rid of it once they hear it. It's kind of like once you see it, you can't unsee it.
God is better at this than we are, because the next segment that we're going to read, and I wrote these hours ago, I'm going to go in and we're going to talk about the account of Christ and the 7 sages. If you're looking at the shared screen here, and we're a little out of sequence. We'll come back and talk about the Draught of Souls because that really needs to come after. And if you guys want to stick with me, I'm going to finish these 5 shows. So next, we're going to read through the account of Christ and the 7 sages, which is where Christ is tested by every other religion in the world and deemed King of Kings across everything. Have you ever heard this before, Nancy?
No.
Oh, it's cool. I know that Stripper hasn't heard this because, he's a stripper. So
don't think that strippers aren't intelligent, right?
Strippers are people too. So everybody watch your email. We're going to have another I'm going to end this broadcast. Everybody say good night, Gracie. And hopefully everybody's going to stick around for the next. Everyone going to stick with me or are you going to pussy out?
You know me best.
Okay. Say good night, Gracie. Good night, Gracie.
Good night.
Aloha, Gracie.
Stripper.
Good night,
Good
everybody.
night, everybody.